My name's Martin Clark. I'm the exhibitions curator at Arnolfini in Bristol. And previously to that, I was the curator at the Herbert Reed Gallery in Canterbury. I studied fine art in Sheffield, and I worked as an artist for a few years, as well as running a record shop and earning my living as a DJ. And I then moved to London in 1999 to begin on the Royal College of Art curating MA. And from there, I graduated from there in 2001. I lived in Berlin for a little while, working with a commercial gallery. And then I came back to the UK to work with the Kent Institute of Art and Design, teaching there and also running their gallery spaces. The show was a long time in its kind of gestation in a way. And I was thinking about, I mean, the starting point for the show was a few artists and a few works, which I was kind of interested in. And I really began by trying to think what it was about those artists and what it was about those works which I was interested in, and the kind of commonalities as well as the differences between those, and what it was that was kind of bringing them together in my own mind. And I then began to think of a way of trying to kind of structure an exhibition around these works, and what might be a way of kind of thinking of a structure that was open enough to be very inclusive and not kind of reduce these works down and close off the kind of meanings within them, but also that would somehow hold them together and allow me to kind of bring other works and other kind of threads and layers into the exhibition. And so after thinking about a number of works, a number of artists for a few months, I then became interested in Ezra Pound, the poet, writer, economist, critic, and also musician. And Ezra Pound seemed to be a kind of important, well, he became a kind of important figure for me in the way that I was thinking about the exhibition. And the title of the exhibition, Pale Carnage, actually comes from one of his poems. So although none of the artists in the exhibition necessarily have any interest in kind of Ezra Pound or his work, I think some of them do, some of them don't. And the show isn't about Ezra Pound in any sense. But he became a way for me to start thinking about some of these very different kind of works and these very different artists, and kind of thinking about bringing them together into some kind of framework, which, as I say, was still oblique enough and kind of open enough to allow for kind of a lot of kind of difference and interplay, I guess. I'm very interested in kind of group shows, and I'm interested in what it means to make a group show and what a group show can be, how works of art can interact with each other for a kind of set period of time in a set space before then kind of disappearing and dispersing back out into the world, into all these other kind of contexts and relationships and places. So that's something that for a long time I've kind of thought about, and I've made a number of kind of group shows. I don't make them too often, maybe once every kind of 2 years or something, because making a show like this, it takes a lot of kind of energy and a lot of research, and it's, you know, it's something that becomes quite personal, and this show did become quite personal for me for a long period of time. So so I guess thinking about the group show and thinking about what it can do, I'm interested in this idea of how you bring kind of works of art together in a space, and how they have kind of relationships both kind of physically and formally, kind of aesthetically within the space, but then also, you know, how you then kind of can draw out other sort of strands of meaning and layers of kind of, it's not really, I never really approach it kind of theoretically, I approach it much more kind of poetically or kind of visually or lyrically, and it's really about trying to kind of bring works together that I think will somehow have a kind of interesting relationship by just being in the same space or being in the proximity of other works. And so a lot of it can be quite intuitive, but then at the end of the day you have to kind of think about how those kind of intuitive decisions can then be kind of brought together and kind of made explicit for an audience. And that's where some of the language that surrounds this show, some of the themes, if you like, that the show's about, kind of come in. But for me, a thematic group show, it's always more interesting if the themes emerge out of the work, rather than you think of a theme and then you think, okay, now I've got to find some work that's about X or Y or the other. That's always feels to me a much more reductive way of doing it. So really, and that was the case with this show, it really emerged out of me being fascinated by some kind of artist practices and some works, and then trying to see what themes would emerge out of bringing those things together. So it was that way around.